to Anime Death Spiral, the only anime podcast enjoyed exclusively by people you avoid at work. Remy, how you doing?
You know, I'm getting ready for the big Thanksgiving Day.
Turkey Day is right around the corner.
Yes, Turkey Day. I call it the filler arc of American holidays. It's bland and nobody really wants it, but it's forced down our throat anyway.
Speak for yourself, man. I enjoy a good turkey.
You can enjoy a turkey whenever you want, though. I mean, do we really have to have the whole thing? I mean, even the color scheme is like kind of like somber and muted.
I do enjoy a turkey whenever I want, I will say. I consume somewhere between 30 to 45 turkeys per year.
See, I think if you wanted Thanksgiving to be really special, you would make turkey meat seasonal, like eggnog. You don't just get eggnog in the middle of spring or whatever.
Well, that's where the fresh turkey comes in. You can't get just an unthawed fresh turkey year round, obviously. If you're buying off-season turkey, it's going to be frozen.
You shouldn't be. It should be illegal. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you should go to jail.
Oh, shit.
You should be punished by the law for eating turkey on the off-season.
This is a hardline political stance, is what you're saying.
It's either that or abolish Thanksgiving. I mean, really, what are we doing here?
I mean, I think we should do that. Free the turkey.
Actually, you know, I do find that whole presidential pardoning the turkey thing extraordinarily gruesome. I hate that.
Right? I was about to say, that's very grim when you think about it.
It's a terrible thing. I hate it. It's so weird.
Imagine being like a dude on death row for the sake of this thought experiment. We're going to call him an innocent person on death row.
Like half of them are.
Yeah. And seeing, hearing about a turkey getting pardoned by the president every year.
Also, how do we know that turkey gets to live? I mean, come on. You're telling me nobody eats that turkey like an hour after they turn the cameras off? How gullible do you think we are?
Listen, nobody gets to live forever.
Do you remember, God, it was maybe like 7 or 8 years back, I think it was the mayor of Chicago, maybe, who dropped and killed the groundhog on Groundhog's Day.
Oh, yeah.
That was so funny. That's the opposite. That's the Negaverse version of pardoning the turkey, is slaying the groundhog.
Well, that happened a couple of years ago where I don't think it was an accident like that. I think the groundhog the day before Groundhog's Day just got diseased and died. I think the groundhog died of COVID.
It got COVID and died, yeah. Now, what does that mean for the coming of spring? Because it seems like a bad omen to me.
Yeah, well, it means a definite, 8 more weeks of winter, possibly with some kind of Norse frost giant involved at that point.
Yeah, a supernatural darkness is descending.
Yeah.
If I was a crystal ball type, let's say, I would be very concerned if that happened to my
groundhog. Listen, the secret third rule they never mention, it's if the groundhog sees its shadow and hides, you get 8 more weeks of winter. If it doesn't, then spring's right around the corner. And then the third rule is if it dies, then it's an omen of the apocalypse, a dark portent of the massacre to come.
Yeah, it's the coming of the ancient frost, right?
Yeah.
The hoary frost. What if he pops up and he shadow boxes? Then we're skipping spring, we're going straight to summer.
Oh, if he fights with the shadow. I think that just counts as seeing his own shadow, right?
That reminds me, I was playing this game.
Oh, that reminds you.
I was playing this game. It's in early access. It's called Back to the Dawn. It's a furry prison break game. I don't want to argue about the definition of furry right now because Nate's got some insane idea about what a furry actually is. But like an hour and a half in, somebody made a Baki reference about...
You'll notice I'm not arguing that statement.
Yes. Back down. Somebody makes a Baki reference about fighting a giant mantis, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm in. Sure, you got me. Whatever. I'm a sucker. You make a Baki reference, I'm in.
Sorry, did you say fighting a giant mantis?
Yeah.
That's dope.
Oh, you haven't read that part, have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well...
Do you know how much Baki there is? I mean, of course you do, but there's a lot of Baki.
Yeah. Later on, when Baki is trying to get stronger, to defeat his dad, of course.
Mm-hmm. As we all do.
He finds it difficult to find opponents that are strong enough for him to still learn from, right? Because he's pretty He's pretty good at fighting.
He's pretty good.
So he decides what he's going to do instead. What he's going to do instead is he's going to, in his imagination, create opponents that are strong enough for him to learn from. And he doesn't imagine human beings because they're lame and boring. He imagines a giant mantis that becomes so real through the power of his imagination that it can actually do physical damage to his body.
That's cool. That's cool stuff.
Yeah. So he beats up a mantis in his basement that he's summoned with his mind. God damn.
The power of suggestion lets him basically injure his own body.
It goes beyond that. I mean, Baki is so fucking cool. When he's fighting his dad, there is a point where they both imagine so strongly a fucking... shit, what do they call the things? You sit underneath them, you put your legs underneath them, it keeps you warm. What is that fucking thing? We're terrible weebs. How is this possible? They imagine one of those and a tea set on top of it so powerfully that it manifests in reality, and in the middle of their fist fight, they stop and drink imaginary tea with each other.
Okay, I just want to jump in. It's called a kotatsu.
A kotatsu. They imagine a kotatsu so strongly that it literally manifests in the middle of their fist fight.
That's awesome.
Baki is so fucking cool.
Okay, so there's a Baki reference in this game.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay.
He shadow boxes a mantis, and it's really cool. And he learns the fist of the mantis from it, because mantises can punch really fast. Did you know that?
I mean, there are no mantis shrimp.
You mean pistol shrimp?
Same thing. Exact same thing.
Sure.
I'm not going to argue about shrimp.
I could not care less about sea bugs. Anyway, I love Baki. Yeah, I hate Thanksgiving.
Yep.
I'm lukewarm about anime.
We still haven't made up our minds on whether it's good or not.
We're still probing around to find out if anime is good or not.
Yeah. So did you watch any anime? Did you read any anime?
Well, I did watch and read anime, unfortunately. Netflix, we talked about all the new stuff coming to Netflix, but I don't know if we talked about the stuff that just came to Netflix. Like, they put out this new 12-episode series of Akuma Kun. Are you familiar with Akuma Kun? Do you know anything about Akuma Kun?
No, I know nothing about it.
So Akuma Kun is by Shigeru Mizuki. He's the guy who did Gegege no Kitaro, which is a very famous old school, that was like 60s manga about a kid who hunts ghosts. Or maybe the ghosts hunt him. I was never really that clear. I didn't read a lot of Gegege no Kitaro, but I just know it's culturally very popular. In fact, talking about Yu Yu Hakusho from last episode, I'm almost certain a lot of Hakusho comes from Gegege no Kitaro.
Yeah, I'm looking at some images here, and I see the crossover. I think the kind of spirit detective, spirit hunter, exorcist kind of motif. It goes back. It goes back a lot to like the Shinto influences.
Yeah, he's a kid, and he can see yokai, right? And he has to deal with that in his neighborhood or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that sucks for him, probably, because that sounds like a fucking hassle.
He's got stanky little wizard eyes.
Yeah. And he looks really bummed out. In every drawing I ever see of Kitaro, he looks really bummed out.
I mean, wouldn't you be if you had to deal with that shit all day?
If I could see ghosts, I'm pretty sure I would be bummed out. That's something I like about Meiruko-chan, is like, she's a kind of a spirit medium. And in the world of that, she's considered like a pretty powerful spirit medium. But she doesn't like really fight ghosts ever. She just tries not to acknowledge them. She's just like, this sucks. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see that. This is really ruining my day. I am so fucking bummed out now. I can't even have fun with my friends. I'm just going to go home and read manga. Which is like, yeah, that's
relatable.
That seems way more like what I would feel.
Yeah, going home and engaging with media instead of dealing with whatever my problems were that day that was a classic move in high school.
Yeah. Oh, the horrors of the world. I think I'm gonna go read manga and watch anime instead. Oh no, that is too real.
I mean, that is how you end up with an anime podcast in your 30s.
It is. This is literally how I ended up watching all of Akuma Kun on Netflix, which is another series by Shigeru Mizuki I think this is the one that came after Kitaro, but it has a very similar setup. The only difference is in Kitaro, they are yokai, which are your classic umbrella guy, kappa, dog with man face. Basically, any enemy that could also be in a Kirby game.
Okay, you know what? I just looked up some images from Kitaro, and this is, I've seen this before. I've seen some travel videos online of a village where this guy was born, and his hometown.
Oh, really?
Kind of has yokai statues and a bunch of homages to Kitaro all over it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. There's some shops there that do these really fun kind of like mochi confections that look like the eyeball dude. So like these big eyeball mochi. It's cute.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, Kitaro is a very famous comic. It's one of the kind of foundational horror comics. But, you know, Gigigi is up there with, you know, Cat-Eyed Boy and Drifting Classroom and all that is like very much horror classics. And Akuma Kun is basically the same idea, except instead of yokai, it's like westernized demons, essentially. So lots of fake Latin.
So when you say that, do we get like, demons, fake Latin stuff, but do we get like, do they ever delve into like the Universal monster kind of catalog? You know, we talk about Dracula's, Wolfman's, some mummies.
I don't
ever meet a mummy.
No, I mean, there is a chick in the anime who uses the mummy motif as her like thing, but she's not a mummy. I mean, she's very particular that she's a demon.
So this is just like demons. So
yeah, they're
what
demons.
You're saying is that once again the influence of the Catholic Church wins out.
Yes, exactly. This is yet again a bastardization of the Catholic Church stuff. Satan is talked about quite a lot as just a dude, which is very funny to me. He's just like a really powerful dude.
I mean, technically he is. You know, that's not wrong.
Yeah. But there are angels as well. Sometimes when they do Satan, you'll notice this in some manga that use demons. Sometimes they'll throw in a Satan, but they won't acknowledge the fallen angel aspect of the Satan character. They'll just be like, there's just Earth and demons, and that's it.
No
which
heaven,
is
though.
Very funny. Yeah, no heaven, no God, just demons and humans.
I feel like I see that pop up a lot. I'm not sure why in more classic anime, but just the idea like, no, there's just an underworld, right?
Yeah.
You know, in Yu Yu Hakusho, there's not a heaven. It's kind of the same thing. There's just the demon world and the human world.
Yeah. I think from a narrative mechanic perspective, having an all-powerful god really ruins a lot of dramatic tension in your fighting anime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the big bad shows up and you're like, why doesn't God just smite him? I mean, isn't that kind of the problem, like literally in the Bible?
Hey, why doesn't God just like fix everything if he's so good?
Yeah, why are all these people suffering? Why doesn't God do anything? Anyway.
Yes, no, we just stumbled onto the main philosophical pursuit of human existence. Good job, Remy.
It's one of the funny things where when you recreate even partially aspects of like a holy text like that, or big pieces of like culture that you're not even necessarily trying to reproduce, you accidentally import the biggest flaws in that piece of media or whatever. I think it's very funny that those things also get reproduced. In Akuma Kun, the main character is a little kid who's supposed to be a sort of demon mediator kind of guy. He's supposed to be bringing about paradise on Earth. And to do that, he's kind of working with demons and preventing other demons from doing bad stuff. But Akuma Kun is, well, how do I say this? He's
he doesn't look like he has great social skills.
He's heavily autistic coded, if I could say that. He's not particularly interested in creating heaven on Earth. He's really more into just like eating pancakes and reading books. That's all he's really into. In fact, he has to be cajoled into stopping demons from like actively hurting people, like even in his own neighborhood. So not a lot of hope for the whole heaven on Earth project.
Well, okay, is it a job that he was thrust into or a job that he like signed up for? You know, because if this is like some kind of like destiny thing and he's just expected to be this kind of mediator between demons and people because he was born with this ability or whatever, it's not his problem. You know, that's not his responsibility. I'm on his side. Why should he give a shit?
No, and that's very much the position he takes, for sure. I mean, you really nailed it. He is chosen by a magic ocarina called Solomon's Flute.
Dope.
And it just chose him to be the next Akuma Kun.
Yeah, it's a euphemism for a penis, right?
Solomon's Flute?
Yeah.
You blow that thing to get rid of demons?
Yeah. It's in all the classic RPGs.
Yeah, he really is not particularly interested in being a chosen one. And he really could not care less.
I mean, yeah. No, he is right and cool for taking that position.
That's definitely one way to approach the story, is that actually with great power comes no responsibilities.
Peter Parker was really, he was just capping himself, right? That he literally had no responsibilities because he could steal if he wanted and not get caught.
He let that guy kill Uncle Ben. He let that happen.
And that was good.
That was a good thing?
Yeah, that was a good thing.
Hey, you never know. Maybe that money was going to like fix his daughter's asthma or something.
They probably did that at some point. I don't give a shit about Spider-Man, though.
Love me some Spider-Man. I love me an alternate universe Spider-Man where the death of Uncle Ben isn't a big deal.
That's kind of the way they went with those Tom Holland ones, right? They don't even mention it.
Uncle Ben is not particularly part of any of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I'm trying to think if he even gets brought up. I think he got brought up one time, maybe, that I can remember. But they firmly planted their flag that, one, Aunt May is going to be a hottie. And they got Marissa Tomei, so check mark next to that one.
Yeah, no, they did it.
Yeah, they figured it out.
Yep.
Two, don't care about the origin story. We're not even going to mention Ben. Completely skip over all origin story stuff. So, mission accomplished. Got through that. Three, he's not a photographer anymore. Never takes a picture. Does not talk about taking pictures.
See, that's a weird... I wonder why they decided to get rid of that trait amongst all the others.
Yeah, I think because there are two Spider-Mans, right? There are two Peter Parkers. There's the photographer Peter Parker, and then there's the scientist Peter Parker. And a lot of times in old Spider-Man, he's flipping back and forth between those two guys. But then in the movies, like Sam Raimi chose photographer Spider-Man, you know? Mm-hmm. And all the other movies chose scientist Spider-Man, including the games too, because it's just more convenient. Because how else is he going to make the fucking webs?
I was about to say, that's the kind of the mechanism by which he needs to make all of his gadgetry. Raimi did the correct and cool thing by just making him a mutant freak that ejaculates from his wrists.
Correct. Absolutely. The correct and objective way to do Spider-Man is to make him come out of his wrists. That is the way to do Spider-Man. All other Spider-Mans are inherently handicapped by the fucking necessary accoutrement, which are lame.
It's true.
I'm not afraid to say it. The web shooters are lame. They're dumb. He should be a freak. It also sets you up better for the integration into like the X-Men.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, was Spider-Man a mutant, though? I feel like they make a pretty clear distinction that X-Men mutants are like different than people who get mutated by other means later in life, right?
Yes. No. X-Men are specifically X-Men because they were born with the X gene.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man, Peter Parker is not born with the X gene. He is forcefully mutated by the radiated spider. But that does mean that his DNA was manipulated by the spider so that it would change him into a mutant, I guess. I don't know. How does DNA work?
Apparently, however you want it to in comics world.
I don't know. I think he wasn't a mutant and then he became a mutant.
Yeah, I think he was a non-mutant and then he got mutated. I agree. That's pretty clear.
Yeah. Anyway, Akuma Kun is a non-mutant who is chosen by Solomon's Flute and becomes a mutant. But he doesn't get any cool powers out of it. That's kind of the lame part.
Well, he gets ghost eyes.
Well, I mean, he can talk to demons and see demons and stuff, but it turns out like everybody can. Demons don't really hide themselves that well.
Oh.
If you see a demon, it's just there. It's not like invisible to you.
Oh, I thought that this was like a unique ability that he had, but everyone can talk to the demons?
Anyone can talk to demons.
Oh, okay.
In fact, here's something they make very explicit. You can fuck them.
Go on.
You can have kids with the demon. One of Akuma Kun's best friends and helpers is a little half demon kid.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Daddy was a demon. Mom was just a person.
This is good and correct.
Yes. I mean, I hard pressed to argue against that. I actually really like their dynamic.
Listen, I'm not some kind of demon misogynist or anti-misogynist.
You're not?
Wait, what does that word mean?
So the friend's name is Mephistopheles. His title is Mephistopheles, and our main character's name is Akuma, but they're both titles. And Mephistopheles' parents, we spend a lot of time with them in the 12 episode run, and I really like their dynamic. I think it's actually my favorite part of the show. His dad is a demon, but like he's pretty chill. He's like a stay-at-home dad. The only sign of demonhood on him is he has a little horn in the middle of his head. But he mostly just stays home, and he goes to the movies in the afternoon, then comes home and like makes dinner for his family. His mom comes home and like immediately starts drinking, which I think is really funny, but like not in a sad way, in like a jolly way.
She's a fun drunk. Oh, good.
Yeah. She's like, I got home from a long day of work. I'm going to crack a beer kind of mom, which I just really like that. I like that a lot. They're fun.
The Masato angle.
Sure, except I think if you look at Masato, you realize that's problem drinking. Misato was not in a good place.
All right. Well, that sounds cool. Anything else come out on Netflix?
Yeah, so I watched that. That was fun. It's a little disjointed. I don't really know if it works as a 12 episode thing, because Netflix really does want to do the whole separate episodes but with an overarching season story, the whole formula that they have very established now.
Yes. For better or ill.
Yeah, and I think for the most part it's for ill here, because it kind of just crowbars this story on top of these very separated incidents that happen. But otherwise, I think it's fairly charming. The other thing I watched, check this shit out. I mentioned it briefly. Netflix put out this Onimusha show. And I say show because, as it turns out, this is another fully 3D project.
Interesting.
I did not know going in.
Okay, I'm looking at some stuff here.
So I found out two things in a row. First, that Onimusha is fully 3D, and I was like, I'm almost about to check out. And then I found out the second thing, which is that this is creatively helmed by our boy Takashi Miike.
No way.
He's the fucking one in the pilot seat here. And that spun me back around on my heel. I was like, okay, well, I'm getting back in.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
All right.
When you see a live-action adaptation of an anime, you go, well, that was Miike.
A very high percentage chance of being Takashi Miike, yes.
Yeah. So, of course, like, why, when I saw a television adaptation of a video game, why did my mind go, oh, that's probably Miike?
So what is Onimusha about? I never played those games.
I don't really remember what the games are about, except that there was a very early Dark Souls implementation where you killed things and you used their souls to become more powerful.
Well, I remember playing a little bit of what I think was Onimusha 3, and it came out semi-concurrently to one of the Devil May Cries. I think probably Devil May Cry 3. And, they're both Capcom properties.
Yeah.
And from what I remember, it was like Devil May Cry, like you said, in the sense that, you beat enemies and you collect little soul bubbles or gems or whatever.
Yeah.
And then use that to increase either your weapon stats or your character, health. But I remember it being very slow, very clunky, and taking place in very confined, like a murder hallway setup.
Yeah.
And it offered none of the like bombasticness or freedom that I got playing Devil May Cry. Basically, it wasn't very fun. So I never really went and looked at any of the other games in the series.
Yeah, Onimusha is not a hack and slash, like beat 'em up brawler-ish. game at all. It actually, it's very funny that it was kind of a Dark Souls precursor, because it was a very slow third-person Japanese action-adventure samurai game that used essentially like the early Resident Evil camera system. So you were kind of moving through the dioramas of these like
like tank controls?
Not so much tank controls. We were past tank controls, but the way that the camera framed scenes very deliberately, like from Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, was ported into this. So you would be moving through these environments, but you didn't have control over the viewpoint of the camera, right? At least in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
You would wander through. There was very slow sword play involved. There were mostly like human-ish, like zombie-ish kind of guys, but also big demon dudes you had to use powers to defeat. You killed guys slowly and gained their souls to level up. Other than that, it really didn't leave too much of an impression on me. But in this one, and maybe this is straight from the game, I don't know, but the main character in the TV show, Onimusha, is Miyamoto Musashi. It's just straight up about that guy. And it's that guy.
Oh, it is that dude. Not based on...
That guy.
Okay, all right. Classic.
It's not based on him. It is that dude. It is the guy who fought in Sekigahara.
Been in a lot of anime.
Yeah.
He's a staple.
His clone shows up in Baki.
Hell yeah.
And he doesn't need a sword. He fights using a sword without the sword. That's pretty cool, right?
Wait, does he use the massive power of his imagination to create sword slices?
Yeah, he doesn't even need a sword to slice with a sword anymore. He's that good.
That's dope.
It's so cool. In this one, he still needs the sword, unfortunately.
How lame.
Yeah. Now, another interesting part...
Sounds like a skill issue.
It kind of is. He gets a demon glaive, and that sucks up souls of the dead and uses them to power him up.
A glaive?
Yeah.
Like a pole arm? Like a big
No,
sword?
like a gauntlet.
Oh, okay. A glove. You meant to say glove.
Well, it's not a glove.
That's not what a glaive is, though.
It is one meaning of the word, you Philistine. Now, he attaches it to his arm, and it kind of grows tentacles.
You mean greaves?
I do not mean greaves at all. Oh, God, you interrupted me, though. I was getting to the best part. Besides it being Miyamoto Musashi, the character model is essentially a 3D scan of Toshiro Mifune.
I'm looking at it, and yeah, no, that's Seven Samurai, Yojimbo. Yeah, no, that's Mifune.
They digitally scan this dude's face and are using him as the model of this TV show, which is so crazy. What? Why would you do that?
I mean, I think that they probably can hide behind, saying that no, it's not Mifune. We didn't scan his face. This is a caricature portrayal. Although maybe they got these designs by feeding old Kurosawa stills right into an AI generator.
The thing is, they use Mifune's mannerisms too, not just his face.
Does he not have any family? Could he sue?
I don't know. I think the estate of Mifune maybe got paid off, or they should look into this, because Toshiro Mifune is extremely charming screen presence. I mean, he's a star in every sense of the word. His charisma on screen absolutely made those movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it does feel a little weird to just straight up grave rob him, just pick up his whole ass corpse and drop him into your TV show.
Well, we're living in an age that is post Rogue One, digital Peter Cushing.
You don't even have to do Rogue One. They did Princess Leia in the third movie, right?
Yeah, I was about to say digital Carrie Fisher. We're there. They've made a Vocaloid of James Earl Jones's Darth Vader voice.
They used Bruce Lee's corpse in that fucking Tarantino movie.
Well, okay, if Tarantino had the option, he absolutely would have used a meat puppet of the actual Bruce Lee's corpse.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so creeped out by that.
I didn't see that last Tarantino, but I heard about that, and I heard that his estate got pissed off because there was a less than favorable portrayal of the character that was based off of Bruce Lee.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Brad Pitt kicks his ass.
Yeah, I'd totally win a fight against Bruce Lee. He was a wimp.
Yeah, it's just seems really weird. I'm sure in the context of the movie, I think there must, if I'm being charitable, there must be some kind of joke to it, right?
Yeah. Well,
you wouldn't play that scene straight. You wouldn't do that. No real person would actually make that choice in a real Hollywood movie, right?
No, you would hope not. But again, we are living in in a post Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes. Well, we should say SAG strike settled, and one of the things they won in the settlement was studios can't scan and freely use your body in future works anymore. They've struck that from contracts, so good for them.
Oh man!
Hopefully that means we won't see more of this weird corpse puppetry, but I don't know how it's going to shake out. I think even with this SAG settlement, individual actors can still sell the rights to their own likeness to be used in that way. So. Who knows? Maybe we'll still see that.
I mean, that's better than just having having the rights be implied with the rights of the film production, which is what the studios wanted, right?
Yeah, which is fucking insane.
It's ghoulish and evil.
It's insanely evil.
Man,
it's
I wish
so evil.
I wish that Netflix had done this adaptation instead of whatever this original story they did. They should have adapted Onimusha 3. With Jean, what's that French actor's name?
Which one?
I'm going to send you a picture.
Jean-Claude Van Damme?
No. First of all, he was French-Canadian.
Yeah, it's still a territory.
Look at Oni, you'll know who I'm talking about. From Godzilla and other French film. Jean Reno.
Oh, it's Jean Reno, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a very small picture. This doesn't help very much.
All right, I'm gonna take two on this.
He looks like a Soul Calibur character there. That's really funny.
Anyway, yeah, I think that Netflix should have adapted Onimusha 3 with Jean Reno and his digital likeness because obviously Capcom already owns the rights to it.
How did Jean Reno end up in Onimusha? That is a mystery I must solve. I'm not sure I can move on with my day. Jean Reno, who is incredible. You'll remember him from Leon the Professional, of course.
Yeah, that's what we remember from Leon the Professional.
I mean, he was on screen in almost every scene, so I would hope so. I hope you're not implying anything untowards, Nate.
Absolutely not, never.
Please keep a lid on that shit, okay?
Guess what his character's name was in Onimusha 3?
Let me guess. Jacques Lefrancois.
You're so close.
What was it?
Jacques Blanc.
Oh, no.
Jack White guy.
That can't be right. He cannot be called Jack White. He cannot be named Jack White.
Jacques Blanc.
Oh, man. That sucks so fucking bad.
His name is Jack White.
Oh, wow. That's really funny.
I'm already on board.
When did they start putting the token white guy in all the Japanese, samurai games? When did that start? It was Onimusha the first one? It can't be, right?
No, it can't be. I don't know what the first one is, but I think it goes back to kind of when there was that cultural realization that samurai films and Western films are like the same thing. With Fistful of Dollars is the one based off of Yojimbo. I think importing the Western sidekick kind of is an extension of that. That's my guess.
So, in Sekiro 2, will there be a Gerard Depardieu character? Maybe
I would be totally down for that. Well, you're joking, but they already did kind of like a half reference to that in Sekiro 1. There's that segment on some bridge.
I know.
Randomly there's a knight with a greatsword.
Yeah, there's the bridge knight.
Yeah.
The one guy. But it was not Gerard Depardieu. It would be amazing if you beat that guy and he pulled his helmet off and it was Gerard Depardieu. Or Maurice Chevalier is in there.
Yeah.
You're like, what? What the fuck? That would be so funny. That would be so
you're trying
cool.
to keep with the tradition of French and Jean Reno and keep it with French dudes.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, it's a very specific look.
He looks like a guy in an overcoat. I don't want to typecast Jean Reno, but assassin or French cop is what I'm getting.
He definitely got typecast for a lot of his life. He has a look. He's great, though. I mean, he truly is. You talk about charisma on screen.
You keep calling him charismatic, but I think for most American audiences, their experience with him is that it's like, oh yeah, he's just that French guy that has a deep voice. He kind of mumbles. Like, my biggest cultural reference for Jean Reno in American film is, like, he was in Godzilla. He was in the Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
Well, he was in Leon the Professional.
I don't want to talk about that.
I think everybody knows that. And, he was in Ronin with De Niro. Anyway, he's really great. Watch more French movies, I guess. Okay. Yeah, I don't really have much.
Yeah, that's how we're going to leave that.
I don't really have much more to say about Onimusha except for those two stunning particulars. The CGI, again, it's just not quite there. There's real moments, especially when the characters have close-ups and they're talking, and the mouth movements just do not feel right. You know what I mean? They just don't match up.
Yeah.
And that's only one of the problems.
I think we're just now moving out of the confines of what CG animation has to be, and these are kind of like somewhere in between what I would consider bad and not good, because like Spider-Verse is good. Spider-Verse is amazing.
We're going to say it every time, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we should say it. We should say it every time.
It's that good.
Spider-Verse is one of the best two films ever made, especially in the animation world. Anyway, Onimusha is not that. We're not there yet. Spider-Verse is there. Maybe that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie you talked about.
Yeah, I think there is a thing, because this is specifically a Japanese production. And, the other notorious one is Blue Eye Samurai, which is not a Japanese production, and has a more stylized look, and I think actually has a handle on those smaller details that give it away a little bit better. And it makes me remember when I was watching those behind-the-scenes docs about the Evangelion rebuild movies. One of the big problems they had, especially moving into the second and third ones, was they were locked into using these legacy pipelines in their production side, where they knew the technology they were using was not sufficient. Like, there were much better techniques and software solutions for the things that they were trying to accomplish, but they were locked into this legacy software because they were so far along in the process and they had solidified their pipelines so completely and rigidly that any change would entirely blow up their fucking production.
I mean, that just sounds like a very Japanese thing. I feel like that's an issue in a lot of animation, if it's not openly talked about already.
I'm eagerly awaiting the next generation. We talked about stuff that was coming out. Some of those were 3D projects. I know, specifically like Arcane 2 is coming out soon, and they're going to have like revamp their entire pipeline to like one up their last season, which a lot of people thought was not Spider-Verse level, obviously, but like very impressive for a 3D production that was trying to create its own visual identity. So I guess we'll see if Arcane 2 can actually do anything about that. It's a shame that it has to be about League of Legends Harley Quinn, but whatever. I like art for its own sake. I could ignore a bad story if I need to. I've sure done it plenty of times, even since we started this podcast. So
that's the only thing we can do. You want to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
We're back. We're back to Anime Death Spiral once again. When we last left off, Remy, you were telling me about some of the Netflix stuff that you've been watching.
Previously on Anime Death Spiral.
15 seconds ago. So I also watched a new premiere series on Netflix. I watched
Wait, hold on. You watched a cartoon?
I watched a cartoon. I did.
You watched a cartoon on Netflix?
Yeah.
But you said you didn't watch any anime.
We can debate that point because I watched the Scott Pilgrim cartoon series, if you don't want to call it an anime.
Interesting. All right.
I went into it hard because I really liked the Scott Pilgrim comics when I read them years ago. I have a lot of feelings about them. But
you looked up to Scott. You modeled a lot of your behavior on his behavior. You kind of tried to live life according to his maxims.
Yes, he was a mentor, a friend. He was my idol. I worshipped that character.
Yeah.
And then I grew up and realized that he was a horrible, shitty person.
Grew up, yeah, sure.
I grew a brain and a dick.
Still watching the cartoons, though.
Yep, still watching the cartoons. Well, I just want to say right off the bat, this was animated by Studio Science Saru, Masaki Yuasa's studio, and it is beautiful, amazing, really fun stuff to behold. I loved every minute of it visually. I don't know how much of it did you watch, but I really like the animation.
I watched a little bit of episode 1, a little bit of episode 2, and whatever made it into the trailers.
So you didn't watch the full episodes?
No. I think I made through probably at least 3/4 of the first episode.
So you didn't even... Okay, so we're getting into it. The series is called Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. The name is very literal in the sense that he's not really in the series.
It should have been called Scott Pilgrim Fucks Off. I mean, why didn't they...
Isn't that basically what they're saying? Do they need to spell it out for you that more clearly?
I would have appreciated if they had, because I definitely would have been more motivated to watch it if it was called Scott Pilgrim Fucks Off.
Well, that is basically the title. Because he fucks off at the end of the first episode, which you couldn't even make it through, apparently.
I saw him fighting the dude in the second episode, so I don't think that's true.
That was a flashback.
Oh, so flashbacks don't count. Okay, so I was tricked. You're saying that they tricked me into not watching the show.
Yeah, you played yourself.
Damn.
You tricked yourself into not watching the show.
No, they did that. They tricked me.
No, that's all on you.
They didn't call the show Scott Pilgrim Fucks Off.
Take responsibility for your poor decisions.
They should have just explained it right up front. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. Well, I think that a lot of people with bad opinions online agree with you.
Good. At least they agree with me.
Because reception to this has been less stellar than I assumed it would be based off of my own enjoyment. Apparently people felt lied to, but yes, it is an alternate take, not an adaptation of the comics. Scott dies at the end of episode 1, and the rest of the series is from Ramona's point of view, and how events change, and it actually kind of morphs more into a murder mystery of who killed Scott. I really liked it because, again, it was more focused on Ramona's character, and without Scott there and the focus that the story pulls on him, because we've already done his story in the comics. Without him, we're kind of allowed to explore all of these characters that were side characters in his story that now get to be more complete in this one. Everyone gets to be people instead of just, ancillary characters to Scott's story. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Especially the whole concept of the 7 evil ex-boyfriends. It's very fun to see them actually get to be their own characters instead of just obstacles, which is what they represented to Scott in the original comics. It was kind of a story about baggage and realizing people tend to view themselves in the best possible light, often to a delusional extent. And so, the story is kind of like a building narrative of Scott realizing that he's a shitty person and he's treated people very badly in his life, and he feels bad about it.
Yeah. And he wants to shadow box his ex's body count.
He doesn't want to. That's forced upon him.
He's forced to do it. Yeah, sure.
But without him there, we get to explore their characters more. They do a lot of really fun stuff. They do a really cute bit where where two of the evil ex-boyfriends just become really good buds with each other and have wholesome times. I like that a lot.
Which two?
What was it? Gideon, the final boss, and the skater boyfriend. They both end up like homeless and crashing on this girl's couch, and they just spend all day like watching skate videos and anime. It's very cute. So anyway, I liked it a lot. A lot of people didn't, but I was very into it. But it did bring up a question of whether or not, like, can we really call this an anime? Because, like, yeah, it was animated by Science Saru. That's a Japanese animation house for sure. But it was written by Brian Lee O'Malley, who's a Canadian dude. It was voice acted by the cast of the movie, which are all Canadians or Americans for the most part. You know, what's the line? When does it become anime?
I think Scott is a weird one because I think in my mind it obviously is not. I think it also, you know, a complication, not to get too serious about it, but a complication with the Science Saru stuff is that, like, from conception, Science Saru has been way more international than most Japanese animation studios ever would be. You know, I think, like, if you go back and look, I think the first time Science Saru did a thing as an actual company was an Adventure Time episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty crazy. It's also one of the really good ones. Do you remember the food chain episode?
That's one of my favorite episodes because I was really high on LSD the first time I saw it.
I mean, that helps for sure. But on its own, it is a great episode. And that is my man, Masaki Yuasa.
Hell yeah.
The GOAT. Absolutely the GOAT.
Devilman Crybaby, Night is Long, Walk On Girl. Great stuff. Love it.
Yeah. Kaiba, Ping Pong, Tatami Galaxy.
Get your hands off Isaacin.
Keep your hands off Isaacin.
No, get them off.
Inuo. Just, I mean, the master. The absolute master. But they've done a lot of Western stuff. Like, Abel Gungara is the dude who took Scott Pilgrim. Obviously, not the most Japanese-sounding name. But he's also one of the guys who took the lead doing, like, OKKO, which is the Steven Universe for cool people.
Throwing hands now, are we?
Yeah, throwing it out. Abel Gungara also worked with a couple other people. He worked on the Star Wars Visions stuff they did. So he kind of established himself as, I guess, the kind of the Western go-to guy.
I mean, hey, if you have a niche, corner it.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's nailing it, and he's obviously in an incredible position because his coworkers are Masaki Iwasa, Shingo Natsume, Shinichiro Watanabe.
Absolute titans of the industry.
Yeah, he's in a pretty good position. But yeah, it's just interesting to note that, like, right off the bat, we're talking about a company that, like, is already kind of international. And that will probably be more common moving into the future, especially with Japan realizing how much of an export anime is these days. You know what I mean?
I don't understand how you can talk about it like it's something that they've yet to realize. They know, they just don't care.
I think it will be... I think an internationalization of Japanese animation series, I think, is an inevitability, if I'm being full serious mode.
Listen, the Pokemon dollars are all they need from the international market. That's funding the whole thing, baby.
Yeah, but that goes all into Nintendo's massive fucking war chest that they use to, like, sue people into oblivion. They use it to erase people from history.
You don't think that Nintendo controls the Japanese government?
You know, it's always been very interesting to me that they started off as a playing card company. There's something nefarious about that. You know what I mean? There's just a dark shadow there. I don't think that's as innocent as people would say.
Yeah, playing card company.
Yeah, playing
We're not a casino. We're not an illegal casino. We just manufacture the cards, and if people play with them here, like, that's not our problem.
Every time you see one of those things as, like, a Japanese company transitioned away from their Yakuza roots, you're like, yeah, or organized crime, just let them go, huh?
Yeah, they went from petty millionaire thieves to legal billionaire Zaibatsu owners.
Yeah, it turns out it's way easier to rob people when you do it like in public in broad daylight with the law on your side. Anyway, that's what makes it anime. Is all the crime involved. No, I think Scott Pilgrim. The thing about Scott Pilgrim is that it has a huge stake. I guess coming from the other side of this, like the art side of it, is that Scott Pilgrim tries really hard to look like Scott Pilgrim, right?
Well,
I only watched a little bit of it.
It has a very defined, look to it. Brian Lee O'Malley has his own art style.
Yeah, and the show, from what I saw, tried very, very hard to capture that art style as it is, not try to animate
But
it.
that's not so different from a lot of anime productions where they try and capture a manga's specific art style.
Yeah, I say most anime we watch, and most of the stuff we talk about, especially the stuff that I've read and has been translated, there is the anime style, though. And a lot of anime gets flattened into that style. There are not that many anime, I would say, that try super hard to maintain, like, a visual identity. Like talking about Spider-Verse, it's hard to bring Trigger into any conversations like these because they do go so fucking hard. And they are so in their own league. But
I'm actually it's funny you bring Trigger in because I feel like Trigger has their own recognizable style. You just like a studio style. It's the Gurren Lagann style that you see in Edge Runners and Darling in the Franxx. And I'm sure there are other shows too. They have that Trigger look. And I'm interested to see how that's going to play into the upcoming Dungeon Meshi adaptation, because that is a manga that is very clearly, it doesn't look like Trigger's usual animation style.
Yeah, I mean, Dungeon Meshi definitely has its own identity, but it's still trading in a very clean anime-like look. It's, when Trigger is going for something different, they're doing panty and stocking, right? It's their take on Powerpuff Girls and Western animation, but it is still very much the closest they have to a house style, I would say. The furthest from the clean anime look that they do. And I think Dungeon Meshi is going to be the closest to the clean anime look. Though, I know you haven't seen Kisniver or the SSS Gridman stuff, but that stuff does also have... It has its Trigger components to it, but it also is very much more the anime AP style guide type anime look, Mm-hmm. And I guess that's what I'm arguing, is that there is an AP style guide anime look, right? I think that's hard to dispute. And it's one of those things that marks Western shows. It puts the scarlet letter on any Western show, because for whatever reason, when you watch Western anime, it like always can't quite manage to nail the AP style guide.
I've always wondered why that is. It feels like it should be, if any number of Japanese animation studios can stick to it internally, why can't an international studio get it right? I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, this is my biggest question about Castlevania. When that first season came out, remember, there was a lot of hype because people thought that, they finally cracked it. Western animation is doing anime. They finally cracked it. And then you watch it and you're like, no, they didn't. They very clearly did not.
I mean, I think that if you asked anybody that worked on that show, they would say that, like, no, we weren't trying to make it look like anime.
Yeah, they'd be blushing and they would be trying not to, like, meet your eye.
Yeah. I mean, it does, I'm not saying it doesn't, but I'm saying that, like, no, they probably thought they were trying to develop a more mature, non-comedic Western animation style, because talked about it in the West, cartoons are fundamentally seen as for kids, and any adult variation on that is usually kind of like plays into like, hey, look, it's a cartoon like what kids watch, but it swears.
There are, yes, I think that is the more capital W Western animation style. That's how we end up with stuff like, Rick and Morty and American Dad and fucking BoJack Horseman and shit like that.
Yeah.
Even Tuca and Birdie, which I actually think the animation is really good in Tuca and Birdie, but like it is still that. It is canonical Western animation that does not want to be anime in any way. I think going all the way back, I mean, we kind of racked our brains, but like Aeon Flux is, I think, the progenitor of this, in that it is a marked Western animation that is truly pulling a lot of its aesthetic cues from anime. I mean, Peter Chung did Aeon Flux, he did Dark Fury, he did one of the Animatrix segments, and he very explicitly says, "Yeah, I was doing anime stuff. Those were my moves. I was doing anime stuff."
Well, even still, I mean, yes, I agree to all that, but Aeon Flux specifically, like, it was still doing some very, like, unique, abstract stuff with the animation and the character design that was not, I wouldn't say inherent to Western animation or
No.
anime, but just like cool stuff that Peter Chung was doing with the cartoon.
Yeah. No, he's pulling a lot of anime aesthetic, but also Peter Chung is he is not doing Western animation. I mean, Peter Chung is a singular animator.
Yeah.
His shit just moves
Well,
in
the thing is
ways
about-
that no one else can do.
The thing about the Aeon Flux character designs is that they're like weird and angular, and everyone has these long spider-like limbs. You know,
Yeah.
they look like they bend at weird angles and stuff.
Yeah. Everything looks sharp.
I love it. I think it's cool as hell.
It is cool as hell. Do you watch the live action movie?
No, hell no.
Oh man, it's worth watching. It's fucking bizarre. It's so weird.
All I remember is that that was the one with Charlize Theron, right?
Yes.
And
Hell
then
yeah,
like
dude.
right around the same time, wasn't there one with, I want to say, Kate Beckinsale? Was that it?
Ultraviolet.
Yeah. But it felt like that was, you know, one of those weird like twin movie release things, right? I don't know what Ultraviolet was about.
Well, I could tell you, it's funny that you bring that up because Ultraviolet is a live action.
Oh God, I feel so fucking embarrassed. It was not
What?
Kate Beckinsale. It was our girl. It was Mila.
Oh, of course. Yes,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. Yeah, she's perfect for that.
Yeah, totally.
It's funny that you bring Ultraviolet into this because Ultraviolet, despite not being an animated movie at all, is like the closest to a Western anime I could probably think of. It is so fucking anime.
That's high praise.
Ultraviolet kicks ass. Just straight up, like no caveats. I think if you mash Ultraviolet and the live action Aeon Flux together, you have something that is pretty much perfect. If you put them in the chamber from The Fly, you would have a perfect live action anime movie. And you wouldn't even have to get Takashi Miike to make it.
How do we start a Kickstarter for this? I like this idea.
I don't know how you would do it, and I think it would take a long time to actually like sit down and analyze what exactly it is. I think makes Ultraviolet a perfect live action anime that's not actually based on an anime. But if you just watch it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, the more conventional stuff would be like, oh, we've talked about Teen Titans, you know.
So I've been looking at this list we put together, and I'm kind of categorizing stuff into these loose bubbles of original stories that were explicitly meant to mimic the look and feel of anime. And for that, I put stuff like Teen Titans or The Last Airbender.
Yeah,
Stuff
I said
that
Batman Beyond is very much like that. Batman Beyond is very much an attempt at anime.
That's an interesting one because Batman Beyond is like a spin-off of the Batman animated series, which has a lot of like anime DNA in it because it was animated by a Japanese studio. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but like that studio went on, you know, they did Batman and Batman Beyond and a bunch of other WB property.
They did Big O, right?
Yeah, they went on to like do Big O that is explicitly, the creator says it was explicitly inspired by his time directing episodes of Batman.
Yeah, and Big O feels like a Western anime.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't feel like an anime. It feels like a Western anime.
I love Big O. That show kicks ass. It's so cool.
I think what's weird about the Batman Beyond thing, and it's like the Avatar and Teen Titans a little bit, is that the Batman original series was like anime guys trying to recreate sort of a little bit of the Max Fleischer flavor.
Yeah. Yes.
Of those early shorts with a lot of the similar aesthetic touchstones, right? Like the roaring 20s, like Art Deco kind of stuff bled all over that Batman shit. and that is definitely pulling from Max Fleischer era cartoons, and the dramatization, the chiaroscuro, excuse me for getting extremely pretentious for a second, but like all that stuff absolutely pulled straight from that. And it's anime guys going, how do we do this like Western look?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Batman, the animated series, has an Akira bike slide in it. I think that says it all.
Oh, of course. Well, every cartoon does now. I mean, like literally you can watch compilations of every single animated thing. SpongeBob has one. You know,
I feel like that devalues it a little.
It kind of does. It feels like every single person does it because you have to, right? But that's why I put
how many cartoons have done like the end of Ava giant Ray head in the distance reference at this point. There was one in that Scott Pilgrim show.
There was?
Yeah.
Of course there was. Why would I even be surprised?
They do a bunch of Ava references. They're laying real heavy on referencing the rebuild stuff.
Yeah.
They were not subtle about it.
That's such a weird thing to me because like most of the rebuild stuff is bad. Like I ended up being very positive about all of it because of the way it wrapped up, but like most of rebuild is like very bad.
No, you don't understand. The fact that it's good at the end means that was retroactively on purpose.
It was all intentional. And actually, if you don't like anything about Ava, it's because you don't get it.
That, but unironically.
Yeah, sure, buddy. Yep.
So there's like that category. And then the other one that I've been kind of filling out is explicitly Western properties going for anime aesthetic as a marketing technique, and that's where I see like the supernatural anime, the X-Men anime, the Wolverine.
Yes, the Marvel properties.
Yeah, the Marvel properties. And then we have like kind of a third category that's starting to emerge more recently, which is, you know, Western stuff that's not explicitly trying to be anime, but shares a lot of the same properties with it. And that's where I would put stuff like Scavengers Reign, or I guess Castlevania. I'm teetering on whether or not that falls into that licensed, marketing push category.
I feel like Castlevania has a lot more in common with like Wolverine or the supernatural anime than it does something like Scavengers Reign.
Well, yeah, okay. I guess I agree with that. Or, like the upcoming Devil May Cry anime from the same guys. It's not out yet, but I guess it's being worked on. Yeah, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. But, stuff like Scavengers Reign, or I don't know what else. Scavengers Reign, we should talk a little bit about that, because that's not Japanese, and it's not French, to my surprise either, which I think it should have been.
Yes, I know. It's clearly drawing on lots of French inspirations, but I definitely boot that chick up and it was like, wait, this isn't French? How is it possible that it's not French?
They don't even have a French dub yet.
That is truly egregious. Like, how could they fuck that part up? I would have immediately watched it in French if that was an option, because it is so French. It's painfully French.
So Scavengers Reign, that came out a little bit ago on Max, and that is an 8-part multi-threaded story about a bunch of survivors from a space station crash in orbit above a hostile planet, right? Does that sum it up pretty well?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah. So we have kind of like these multiple different storylines of who are the older guy and the younger lady. Mike? Is his name Mike?
His name's Sam.
Sam. And they're trying to, in the first episode, they're able to rig some kind of radio or signal emitter to force the remains of the space station that they were on to land on the planet. And then their story is kind of making their way across the environment to get to it. We have the guy that was trapped inside of the lander that gets like mind controlled by these weird little koala dudes, which that freaked me out the most. I think I like that story the most out of all the ones.
Brain control frogs?
Yeah. Like these weird koala frog things with psychic mind control powers.
Yeah, they're fucking cool as hell.
Yeah. Who else? There's the lady and her robot that were farming, and then they also see the ship crash, and they're trying to get to it.
Yeah, it's those three. It's three intersecting stories that kind of mirror each other throughout the run of the show. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I got like 3 episodes into it. You watched the whole thing, right?
Yes, I watched the whole thing very quickly because it's fucking great. The thing I think makes it relevant to this conversation is the French obsession with anime.
Yes.
And I know, again, like we said, this isn't actually French, but it is so French. It like artificially recreates that dynamic.
Well, it leans very heavily into the visual works of Mobius, right?
Mobius, as you'd pronounce it. Someone like, do you know Simon Roy?
No, I haven't heard of that guy.
He's not French, or maybe he's French-Canadian. I don't know. I think he's Canadian. His art has very similar vibes to it, very much like Alien Planetscapes kind of thing. He was. Do you know Prophet? Do you remember Prophet? That was.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the most famous one.
Yeah.
That he was working on. Yeah. He has a similar style that's very representative in this. You can see it a lot. His stuff is fantastic. It's very, very cool. Also, kind of, if you just saw it in a vacuum, you probably also would assume it's French. He's got a French vibe to it.
Yeah, I think it's the pastel colors that does a lot for it, giving it that French flair.
Yeah, honestly, this sounds terrible, but honestly, it's the respect for the audience's curiosity and intelligence that gives it a real French vibe to it. I mean, to make it as literal, I mean, a lot of it. This is all touching back to Fantastic Planet, and this show makes so many references directly back to Fantastic Planet that I know it must be intentional. I know it has to be intentional.
I think so.
Yeah, that's also a big French connection. The French connection.
Hey, nice.
And France has always been like in love with anime. That is a legendary relationship. But French people are also very proud, and so they do not want to just mimic anime. They want to maintain their own voice. So they kind of like colonize anime in the French fashion and build something unique out of the parts that it pulls out. And that's how you end up with like a lot of stuff. Do you ever watch The Triplets of Belleville?
I remember it, yeah. I think I saw it when I was I mean, when it came out, so probably when I was like 11. My grandma liked it, I remember, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I fell in love with it. It came out probably when I was, God, I want to say like 12, 13. Hold on. Yeah, released in 2003. So I must have been 13. And I remember like it really blowing my brain because it had both that kind of beautiful, quirky charm of those original cartoons, like from the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff that is just like you cannot recreate now. Not in the cancel culture way, but in the like animation techniques and sensibilities evolve over time kind of way.
Sure.
But it also had like such a modern sensibility. It was really like the first thing since I started watching anime that struck me as like anime in the spirit of anime-ass anime kind of anime.
Okay.
It's hard to describe exactly what I mean. I know
I think
gibberish,
I
but
kind of get. I don't know if this is the same, but this goes back to the French connection with anime. Remember, we saw the Red Turtle, which was a collaboration between Studio Ghibli and a French animation studio that I should name, or I should know. Who was that?
Who was that?
Who was that?
Who was that?
Wild Bunch. Studio Wild Bunch.
Yes.
Which they've done a bunch of stuff. Look them up sometime. Real cool. But yeah, Red Turtle also a good movie. But I think it did a good job of capturing, I would say, what is visually pleasing about the mechanics of Japanese animation, while being a distinctly French work.
Yeah, and it has not to put such a fine a point on it, but it has that je ne sais quoi that makes it anime. Because we just got season 2 of Invincible, right?
Ugh.
Yes, you can but it has. This is another one that I think falls into that kind of in the Castlevania category, where we have a modern animation studio trying to make something that is at the very least anime-ish, or on that can stand at the same, sit at the same table as an anime. But when you look at it, it is missing something.
Okay, what's missing when I look at clips of Invincible is this is totally separate from the aesthetic design of the characters. I think it is just badly animated. It's not a well animated show.
I think that's part of it.
It's very stiff.
I think that's part of it, though. I really think that is one of those things where it's like there is an imbalance somewhere along the line. There's like something, a piece missing in their quality production. I was also thinking of this show. I don't know if you ever watched any of this. Do you remember Pantheon?
Yeah, oh yes. I think that kind of goes, I should have put that on here. I do remember Pantheon, but that was kind of like Blood of Zeus, which I put on here as an Amazon cartoon. And that's like Pantheon, but like with more sex and blood.
Sure, yes. I think they look similar in that they also are attempting to do like what I would say, this thing where like they want to sit at the table with anime.
Yeah.
But they're missing that thing. And then you know what? I will say, unlike Invincible, from what I saw from Pantheon, I don't think it's badly animated. I think actually a lot of the animation, I'm not in love with it, but I think it looks fine. But it is missing that whatever that fucking thing is.
Well, I mean, I think the answer is the difference between Japanese animation studios and Western animation studios is the number of rights the workers have.
That's, there is definitely a discrepancy there. I'm willing to admit you, but I'm thinking.
Listen, less worker rights means more frames per second. That's just what it boils down to.
I'm thinking of even like bad anime though, anime that is not well animated at all, doesn't even maybe look very good, but is so easily identified as anime. Remember when I was complaining about how did Ray Liana end up in the Duke's Castle or whatever that show was called? And I complained a lot about how the animation is like not very good and there's not a lot of it. It's bad soup and there's such small portions. But comparing that, which isn't even based on an anime or based on a manga, it's based on a webtoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Comparing that to Invincible or Pantheon or Blood of Zeus or Castlevania, there's such a stark difference. There's a huge fucking canyon.
So I think part of what you're talking about is due, and this is a theory, but I think it's probably due to the prevalence of using Flash animation and its legacy programs as like the standard in Western animation versus the kind of more, they have a different family of digital programming that was made around the anime industry that they use in Japan. They don't use Flash as prevalently. And you can tell when they do because everything looks flatter, the colors look more washed out. I think that's just what Flash animation looks like.
Yeah, you mean like the new Rurouni Kenshin?
Yeah, exactly.
I would be interesting to put that side by side. Not that I want to watch new Rurouni Kenshin, but
yeah, we should not support that guy.
Yeah, don't support that guy. If we started making a don't support this guy list of anime dudes, though, it would be like, who the fuck can you watch?
I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah, you have to really like rack your brain for that one. I don't know. There is some indescribable thing that I still feel like is part of it. The tools definitely describe a big part of it, but I don't know. It's just there's like there's a stink on Western anime that you could just immediately pick up on. I think what's interesting about this Scott Pilgrim anime is like it doesn't have that stink. I think that's probably what gave you pause at the beginning. Is I really think it is whatever that stink is. I think it shook it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, that's why I keep calling it the Scott Pilgrim anime. I'm on the side that this is firmly an anime, mostly because I full disclosure, I did watch it entirely in the Japanese dub. I did not watch the English,
which is psychotic.
No, it's not, because I think that is by far the worst aspect of the show. The English movie cast, they all suck at voice acting, except for Mae Whitman, who is an actual voice actress.
How dare you say that about Schwartzman?
I don't I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I was going back and forth and rewatching several scenes to see, like, to compare the English voices to the Japanese one, and the Japanese dub came out on top every time. I'm just saying that is the optimal way to watch it.
After all of what we just said, you didn't watch it in French, which is just so disappointing to me. It's just really crushing to me.
Did you watch it in French?
No. But if I watch it, I will watch it in French. Absolutely. Okay. As I think would be the correct way to do it. You tried to get me on Brian Lee O'Malley not being a Quebecois, but French is the official language of Canada.
But just per capita, there's more French-speaking people than any other being in the province.
And also, Canadians who don't speak French pretend they do to seem more worldly. It's a common tactic.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah. So that's the final French connection we can make here. I think we solved it.
Yeah, is that the French do it best.
Yeah. French people are the best at anime. They straddle both worlds. They made the word anime. I don't know what else I could possibly say.
I think we're done.
Shit. Okay. You don't have any final words?
No, I agree with that. The only thing I can add in there is, did you ever watch any of Wakfu, which is another French cartoon, which I would say is even more explicitly anime in style than anything else we talked about?
I have not, and I got to be completely honest. Until a few years ago, I thought that was like just porn.
It mostly is.
From the exposure I ever got from Wakfu was like people drawing insanely horny art around it and like horny cosplayers. That was the only exposure I ever got to it.
Okay.
And so I just assumed it was porn.
Well, I mean, you say like people, but the creator of the series, like, he's explicitly out there doing that on his own. He needs no prompting or help from the community. He is out there uploading porn of all of these characters on the daily for the last 15 years.
Yeah, how does his studio not like sue him to stop?
Well, you see, they're French and they're all horny too.
He wrote it into his contract. He's like, I'm allowed to draw porn of these children's characters.
Listen, the French just have stronger creators' rights than us. They can do that.
Well, unironically, that's true. That is true. And good for them. Good for them. Oh, boy. Okay. Jesus Christ.
I think we went a little over time today.
That was a lot of anime, even including all that non-anime we talked about. The stink of non-anime lies heavy.
Oh, actually, I'm going to throw in one last thing, as long as we're on it. Avatar, The Last Airbender, not anime. Definitively.
Avatar, not anime. Steven Universe, not anime.
Nope.
Avatar, not anime. Steven Universe, not anime. Adventure Time, not anime.
Powerpuff Girls, not anime.
Powerpuff Girls is not anime. Clone Wars, not anime.
Edge Runners, that's an anime.
Edge Runners is anime.
And it's better than all of that other stuff.
It's better than everything we talked about, including Scavengers Reign.
Yeah. All right. All right, that's it.
Oh, fuck. Okay, let's get out of here. Jesus Christ.
All right. Bye. You know, that's one thing about the Hitler manga. No one really got that he was meant to be the bad guy.